Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to do a show about the Iranian diaspora and their support for the Crown Prince Reza Shah Pahlavi, who wants to go back to Iran and bring about regime change. He says he wants to be a transition leader, probably for the next 20, 30 years. He wants to be king of Iran until some transition takes place. So in this show, the thing that I'm going to really do is talk about a particular survey which is being cited very often and very frequently in the United States to suggest and say that nearly all Iranians are in favor of a regime change, that 89%, some people say that 81% of Iranians are against the regime, and 89% are against the regime. So they are trying to justify this Israeli and American war on Iran and this devastation that is taking place of Iran and in the Middle East as a result of this war as something that the Iranian people really want, as if America and Israel are doing a favor to the Iranians by essentially destroying their country. So I'm going to go through a very complex process. I'm going to first show you who these people from the Iranian diaspora are. Most of them are also apologists for Israel, and they are very much very supportive of the Israeli war in Gaza. So there seems to be an alignment between these members of the Iranian diaspora who support this war and who also supported Israel during its war in Gaza. So we must not forget that this war that the U.S. is fighting is to establish U.S. hegemony in the Middle East. This is not about any threats to the U.S. U.S. intelligence agencies very clearly made it out that neither was Iran pursuing actively a nuclear weapon. This is according to Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence. And the National Intelligence Council also made it very clear that there was no imminent threat to the United States. So this war is to establish, because Iran is weak at this moment, to essentially establish Israeli dominance of the Middle East. And if you've been listening to Mike Huckabee's interview with Tucker Carlson, this is to establish a greater Israel in the Middle East. So what I'm going to do today is first I'm going to show you which are these voices that are promoting this claim that there is 80%, 89% support for regime change in Iran. I will then show you something about Reza Pahlavi and listen to him for about a minute or so. I have just two short videos. And then I will walk you through that particular survey itself, which is cited. It is a survey by a company or researchers based in Netherlands, a non-profit organization called GAMAAN, GAMAAN. I will show you the website of theirs, and I will also post a link of their website in the video's description so that you can go and look at those surveys in much more detail. But I will show you their key findings according to their own report. And you can see that I'm just taking screenshots and sharing that information with you. And then watch this show to the end, because at the end, I have a very small clip from Dr. Wali Nasser, who is probably the most important voice on Iran today, not just in the United States, but in the rest of the world. I noticed that just last week he was in New Delhi speaking at the Raisina dialogues, and here he's all over the media. But before that, I also want to tell you that I had a very good day today. I was on a very important show called On Point on the National Public Radio, which is syndicated nationally. So I was on it for over 30 minutes talking about the economic consequences of the Iran war. As usual, I will share that on the posts of the channel, so you can also go listen to that. I also had two articles which came out today, one on India's economy and the adjustments that Indian Ministry of Statistics has made to the way India calculates its GDP. So that was published in The Diplomat. It was co-authored with two distinguished economists, Amirullah Khan and Dr. Santosh Mehrotra, Dr. Amirullah Khan and Dr. Santosh Mehrotra. But I also had an article today in the News Journal in which I argue that this war with Iran might ultimately, it's a possibility that it could bring about regime change here in the US if Donald Trump loses both the Senate and the House. in the midterm elections. So I will share all of that in the post tonight. And I also want to say that this show today is dedicated to my friend, Dr. Raza Khan from Minnesota, who has been a great friend of the show. So thank you very much, Raza, for your support. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to play a video of Mr. PBD. He is an Iranian American who's a very strong supporter of Israel. And this is what he had to say.
Today, I want to start with this. I've been watching you on your podcast, also on Twitter. You say 80% of Iranians inside of the country are opposed to this regime. One, how do you know that? And then what will these 80% do now that President Trump has taken this action? He said, now it's up to you. They don't have guns. Can they and will they fight for their freedom?
Rachel, great to be with you this morning. The only people that support the IRGC is actually the extremists of IRGC and white liberal women in America. You see women, Iranian women around the world dancing, Iranians celebrating. The numbers we've seen is a low of 71% to a high of 89% that do not want to see what's happening in Iran right now. They're sick of it. They want to be free.
I mean, this guy is such a jerk. He took a pot shot at white women liberals in America as if only they are supporting IRGC. They are not. But let me also show you another of his clip from that very clip. So the first thing he says that there's a survey that says there's 81% support. I'll show you. He's quoting accurately. I will show you the survey, but he's misrepresenting what the survey actually says.
He's having a lot of momentum right now. Every time he posts, he gets millions of views. So one has to say there's credibility behind the fact that he's getting that kind of momentum of people paying attention to.
So he goes on the show and he says there's 81% support. Are people in Iran who are against this particular regime, and basically trying to say that they are also supporting this Israeli and American war because they want regime change. And then he starts advocating for Mr. Raza Shah Pahlavi. Basically, they want 1953 to be replaced against. In 1953, the United States and UK destroyed the elected government of Mossadegh in Iran and replaced that with a monarchy. Now they want to go and attack Iran again, this time through a war, and replace and then start and establish another monarch in Iran. This time, make sure that he's very loyal to Israel. See, this guy, this is the middle fellow, is Raza Shah Pahlavi, and that is, of course, Mr. Netanyahu, the most powerful man in the world as far as America is concerned. Every time he raises a finger, Donald Trump dances to his tunes. And of course, Mr. Raza Pahlavi goes and shows his loyalty to Israel by going and praying at the Wailing Wall, etc. So he has gone and established his credentials that I will be loyal to Israel. Now make me king of Iran. You know, it's like these days, I think these are people who want to be like Narendra Modi of India, that they want to go to Tel Aviv or to Jerusalem and say with full conviction, I stand with Israel. But listen to him. It'll be interesting to listen to this guy. And this will be my second last video. The other video is of Dr. Walid Nasser, which will be at the end of the show.
You're actually saying then that Israel bombing your country, civilians in Iran being killed, is a positive thing?
I'm not saying that the targeting was meant to hurt the Iranian people. The targeting was meant to basically neutralize the regime threat. Clearly, I don't think that it was an intention of the Israeli government to attack Iranian civilians.
So he's going there and justifying this attack, being an apologist for Israel. Israel knows exactly where Ali Khamenei, the most protected person in Iran, was, and their intelligence was so accurate. Remember how they killed Hania, the Hamas leader. They blew him up in an IRGC guest house, so they knew where he was, when he would be there. So a country with such great intelligence, then bombing a school, killing 170 women, blowing up oil depots, creating acid rain in Iran. So there's already thousands plus civilians are also dead. I think the total casualties has reached about 1,500. So for him to say, "Oh, this is unintentional," is basically an apologist. So this is the first part of the show where I talked about this. So keep this in mind, that most of this rhetoric is coming from people like PBD and others who are very pro-Israel. And they are really trying to dupe Iranians into overthrowing this regime and installing a pro-Israel king in Tehran. And that would be the ultimate complete victory of Israel. There are already pro-Israel kings in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, elsewhere. So this Abrahamic Accords will be completed. And so there are other places where he has actually talked about an Iran where as soon as he becomes king, it will join the Abraham Accords and be the best friend of Israel. I could not play that video for you because I could not download it. So now let me talk about the survey itself. Okay, this is important. So this is the survey for everybody who's using it. If you hear anybody, whether it's the US government, whether it's the media, or anybody from the Iranian diaspora, they're saying that 80%, 90%, 89%, etc. This is the survey that they're talking about. So first, I will take you to the website so that you can yourself go and take a look at it. And then I'm trying to see how I can potentially share it with you. Oh, by the way, this PBD guy actually had Netanyahu on his show. He has his own podcast, and he was trying to justify everything that Israel was doing. So the connection between being a supporter of Israel, being a supporter of Raza Pahlavi, they are identical. If you see any supporter of Raza Pahlavi today, I bet you, if you just Google them, you'll find they're also supporters of Netanyahu and Netanyahu's genocidal war in Gaza. But I also want to share with you this website. Let me. I know I have it somewhere here, okay. So if I can't find it, you can go and look for it. Let me see if I can. Give me 1 second, please. On the GAMAAN side of it. So anyway, I will share the link to the website. I don't know how to do this. Screen sharing was canceled, but I have screenshots of the stuff. So this is the first screenshot. So they did 2 surveys, one in 2024, not now. It was in 2024 after the Iranian president died. They had a new election, and that's when GAMAAN did this survey. Now, methodologically, let me also tell you this very clearly, that there's something problematic about this survey because it is done by internet, by researchers sitting in Netherlands, and they want you to use VPN. Believe me, the first time I used VPN was just in November when I went to China. Until then, I've never used VPN. VPN cost me $20 a month to use VPN. So who in Iran has the technological know-how and the capabilities to download a VPN and to use that VPN and go on the internet and then do a public opinion poll? You think ordinary Iranians have these capabilities? The economy is devastated. They have been under sanctions for 30, 40 years. Most of the people who are rural, religious, older people, they don't have all of these technicals. So, you know, I even hear political scientists touting this survey as if it is decisive, this survey. But these political scientists are also being disingenuous. What they don't tell you is that the survey was taken in 2024. And what they don't tell you is that it was done by internet using VPNs, which means that there's a tremendous sampling bias. You know, in America, pollsters used to get everything wrong because they would call and do polling on landlines before cell phones became. And African Americans would get underrepresented because they did not have a permanent residence. They would be renters, not homeowners, etc. So it's that kind of a bias. Only the rich and the elite and the urban who have access to a VPN have answered this. And so extrapolating from what a young kid in college who's dying to leave Iran and go away to the West, says on a VPN cannot be projected to religious people. You would assume that nobody in Iran is religious or believes in Islam if you listen to these people who talk about this particular survey. Anyway, so the first summary that they offer is this is the section 1. They say that and you know what I'm going to do is I'm not going to dispute their call. I'm not going to say this is wrong. I'm just going to say, okay, this is what they are saying. We'll take it at its face value, and then I will show you how wrong are those people who are reporting this. In fact, I'm going to say that most of the people who are reporting this survey are liars. Most of the people who are reporting this survey are liars, and I'll tell you why. So this is it. A significant majority of Iranians oppose the continuation of the Islamic Republic. The highest level of opposition, 81%, occurred during the protests when Amini, the woman who was beaten to death for not wearing hijab, Mahsa Amini, at that time. And so at that time it was 81%, but when the survey was done in 2024, it was 70%. So which means it has already declined from the protests, the Amini protests. By the way, I did several shows on those protests, and I was horrified by what the Iranian regime did. I'm not a supporter of the Iranian regime. I'm just against all these Islamists, whether it's the Taliban or this or even the Muslim Brotherhood. You can go and see my academic publications and my recent article in Frontline about the Iranian regime while they were massacring people in January. But anyway, so this is what they are saying. So in 2024, when this survey was conducted, only 70% were opposed to the Iranian regime, but they say 81% was at that time. But look at the second one that I have highlighted. The dominant political orientation in society is regime change as a precondition for change is only 40%. So only 40% of Iranians who want change want it via regime change, which means according to this survey, 60% of Iranians are against regime change. So anybody who's implying that this war of regime change is supported by 80%, 81%, or 89%, and I'll show you where the 89% comes from. 89% of the Iranians, they are all liars. They are making fools out of Americans. They want Americans to go and die so that Iran can become a liberal democracy while having a king. Let me tell you, Donald Trump is against democracy in the United States. Do you think he's going to go to wars to promote democracy elsewhere? This is the key part. The dominant political orientation in society is regime change. So the researchers are being honest, at least in their reporting, that only 40% support regime change. And then this is the third one, which is support for the principle of the Islamic revolution and the supreme leader. The Velayat-e-Faqih has decreased from 18% to 11%. So I think they are flipping this 11% data and saying in 2024, only 11% of the Iranians support the Islamic revolution and the regime that came out of it, the Velayat-e-Faqih model. So 89% must be opposed to it. So this is where I think the 89% comes. And there's another place where the number 89 pops up. And I'll show you how it's completely inconsistent with the way the supporters and users of this survey are talking. In fact, I think when educated, thoughtful people use this survey that way, you must immediately recognize there's this absolutely shady fellows, because they are deliberately trying to fool ordinary Americans into going to a war. Okay? Then they say that opposition to the Islamic Republic is higher among the youth, urban residents, and the highly educated, which, by the way, is probably the sample of this survey. So now let me show you what their second section was. So in the second section, they talked about forms of governance. And this is where that 89% probably comes from. They say an overwhelming majority of Iranians, 89% support democracy. Great. But they are interpreting this as saying that an overwhelming majority of Iranians support regime change, this war by Israel and the United States on Iran, etc. No, no, no. I will show you that that conclusion cannot be drawn by using this survey itself. Okay, but what is also interesting is if 89% of Iranians support democracy, then why will they support a monarchy? Why would they want to have that clown Raza Pahlavi come and become king of Iran? He goes around introducing himself that he's crown prince of Iran. How can he be a crown prince if there's no king? Yes, MBS can say, I'm crown prince of Saudi Arabia. And when King Salman passes away, whatever, he will become king. Anyway, and then look at the next point. About half the population, 43%, is open to authoritarian rule by a strong individual leader. So I don't understand. If 89% support democracy, then how can 43% of the population also support an authoritarian regime? And if they support an authoritarian regime ruled by a strong individual leader, aka Vilayat al-Faqih, Ali Khomeini, then they should be happy with the current regime. Do you see the inconsistency that I'm pointing out? It is beyond the comprehension of those who support and use this survey, but I'm sure some of you will get it. If 89% of them support democracy, why would 43% of them support an authoritarian system? They are alternatives to each other. So, for example, if I show the first sentence and ask my students, how many Iranians support an authoritarian regime? They would say, Professor Khan, since 89% support democracy, therefore it follows that 11% support a non-democratic system, an authoritarian or a totalitarian system. There's no way they're going to look at that and say 43%. And then look at the third finding of theirs. Governance based on religious law and military rule faces widespread opposition. Not really. They say that 66% of the Iranians, according to the survey, are against application of the religious law, the Sharia law. What about the 34%? Do they support it? So if 34% support Sharia law, where are you getting this 89% support for democracy unless they believe in Islamic democracy? And then they also say that 71% respectively are opposed to military rule. Well, that's what is going to be established if the US and Israel conquer Iran and occupy Tehran and then install Raza Pahlavi. His father had an agency called Savak, which was created by the CIA, which killed thousands of Iranians who were opposing monarchy. And that is exactly what is going to happen if the US and Israel send ground troops, occupy Tehran in order to install a pro-Israel monarch. This was the second section. Let's look at the third section. Here it is, the preferred political system and structure. Now look at it. I want you to go back here and see. They say 89% support democracy. Okay. Now, in the same survey, their finding is that only about 20% of Iranians support the continuation of the Islamic Republic. Wait a minute. If 89% support democracy, then how come 20% are supporting the continuation of the Islamic Republic? Fine, the majority one, that is 80%. But the next one is a clincher. Okay, I'm not selecting, I'm just taking screenshots. You can go to the to GAMAAN and look at the survey on GAMAAN. Let me try. Yeah, I think I found how to do it on GAMAAN, and you will find these surveys. There are only two out there, one done in 2024, one done after the 12-day war, and I'll show you something from there too. But this point, the second one is fascinating. So look at it. Look at the point one. It says 20% Iranians support the current regime, the Islamic Republic of regime with the Vilayat al-Faqih model. All right, so 1 out of 5 supports the regime. When it comes to preferred alternatives, only 26% favor a secular republic. not 89%. Only 26 favor a secular republic. 21 support a monarchy. For 11%, a specific form of the alternative system is not important, and 22% report lacking sufficient information to choose an alternative system. So they are and they're doing this on VPN, so there's no fear or anything like that. So if there are 5 Iranians, one has no opinion. So what you're left is by 4. Of the 4, one, let's take this 11% and the other saying that they are not very particular about what form of alternative system comes, as long as it is alternative, I guess. But of the 3 main, 20% want Islamic Republic as it is, 26% want a secular republic, 21 support a monarchy. This is fascinating. So to me, this is quite fascinating because it shows a diversity of opinion in the Iranian public. Okay, they are not either pro-regime or anti-regime. And there's this majority of Iranians, and this rubbish that people keep saying, all Iranians are against the republic. No, they're not. 20%, according to this very survey, say they support the continuation of the Islamic Republic. All right, so this is the 3, 1, 2, 3. The 4 and 5 are an attempt to make Raza Pahlavi look good. You can go and look at it. They say that 31% Iranians from among those who are in opposition. So there are those who support those people who are in government. Then there are those who support those who are in opposition. And of those who support opposition, we don't know whether they are 80%, 81%, 19%, 20%, whatever. Okay. Of those who are opposed to the current regime, only 31% of them, 1 out of the 3 who are opposed to the regime, supports Raza Pahlavi. Now look at this. This is from the newer survey. This was done in November. And in this survey, you will find that this was done after the 12-day war with Israel. So this is what they found regarding the most effective way to bring about change in the country. About 1/3, 31%, considered civil protests the most effective method. I mean, these are Gandhians. 1 out of 3 Iranians is a Gandhian. He wants peaceful civil disobedience. I mean, this is a language invented by Mahatma Gandhi of India. 31% civil protests. 18% favored foreign pressure and intervention. By foreign pressure and intervention, this is what the US and the West has been doing, sanctions, etc., for a long time. 1 out of 3 says, let's be Gandhi. Let's protest, civil protest. 1 out of 5 says there should be foreign intervention. 14% says let's do it through electoral processes. Remember, there's all these debates about pragmatists versus moderates, etc. And there are examples of how moderates have won elections many times to the president's position. And because of the long life of the conservative Ali Khamenei, there was no opportunity to elect a more moderate Wilayat al-Faqih. It could have happened after the death of Khamenei, but the circumstances led to Mujtaba Khamenei getting elected, who was more radical than his dad. But 14%, this is pretty good. 1 out of 6 Iranians feel that change should come through elections. A viable method for change, while 6% are these Iranian Americans who want Israel to go and bomb the shit out of their country, destroy the Iranian heritage, destroy all the beautiful things in Iran, and kill as many people as they can. Remember how effectively Israeli intelligence worked in finding Khamenei and killing him. Remember how effectively they found Hania and they killed him. Remember how effectively they got rid of Hezbollah through tremendous, fascinating intelligence. And then see how effectively they were able to kill the guy in Qatar who was supposed to be negotiating with Americans without hurting anybody, without destroying the building. So Israel could have done the same in Gaza. It could have hunted down every Hamas person who was involved in October 7th and killed them alone. but they chose to destroy and kill thousands and thousands and thousands of civilians and destroy the entire Gaza and make it unlivable. That was a deliberate attempt to do, and they're going to do that in Iran too. They're going to destroy Iran as an industrial power. They're going to make sure that Iranians will never, ever be able to challenge Iran. And if that means killing thousands of people, so be it. And remember that not everybody who works for the Iranian government is a crazy radical person, and their families are not. Even if it's an IRGC commander, is it okay to kill his wife and daughter and children? I'm so happy to see that unlike the Iranian diaspora, only 6% of Iranians want violent struggle. And 13% seem to be hopeless, and 17% probably didn't want to answer the question. Maybe they're not secure about the VPN connection. But let me see if I can now do the what is called screen share. Okay, here it is. I got it. So this is the protest versus power in Iran. So this is the website GAMAAN.org, GAMAAN.org. You can see on top. And let me go back here and show you the survey. What did I do? Okay, here it is. So this is GAMAAN. So they have these survey reports. You can check here. And these are the survey reports, Iranian attitudes towards the 12-day war. So this was done after the 12-day war in November. Then the survey that I've been talking about is this analytical report of 2024. Okay, then there are older reports, okay, about the election. But this was done last year in August 2025. This is what everybody is talking about. All the screenshot that I showed is from this report. But from this particular report, I do want to share something with you, which is what I showed you was this bottommost one, which is about 31% wanting change where civil protests. But there's one here about, see this one, regarding reactions to war events and consequences, a majority, 73%, they were deeply upset by civilian casualties. And let me tell you, I think that more and more Iranians are going to get far more upset with the civilians and the brutality with which America and Israel are going to bomb and continue to bomb. And they're going to get more and more frustrated as Iran manages to prevent the oil from flowing through the Strait of Hormuz, and Iran doesn't surrender and come to the table and does not accept whoever Trump wants. By the way, Reza Pahlavi does not really enjoy Trump's entire support. Trump wants somebody from inside the regime, like the Venezuela model. So there's chances of these diaspora people establishing a kingdom and monarchy. Let me also tell you something about these so-called diaspora people. Let's say they get their wish. Okay. Tomorrow, some magical weapon that Israel has kills all people who are IRGC and supporters of IRGC, say 1 million people in Iran. And then Reza Pahlavi becomes king. I guarantee you none of these diaspora people are going to go back to Iran and say, oh, I'm coming back to Iran. Now this freedom of Iran, this democracy, I'm going to build it. No, they're not going to go there at all. So we have seen that repeatedly in other cases of the other countries, etc. So the point that I want to make is that there is a lot of negative use of information going on. There's a narrative that is being developed exactly like the Iraq war. Apparently, the George Bush administration was looking for a convertible American classic Impala car so that George W. Bush could ride in it, standing up and waving to the people as the Iraqis celebrated him and welcomed him in Baghdad as a liberator, throwing flowers. So that was their image. That is what the Americans were led to believe by Iraqis, that this is what will happen. All Iraqis are against Saddam Hussein. Let's just go in there, knock the guy off, and then we get rid of the Ba'ath party, and then all the Iraqis want democracy. They love. Well, they created ISIS, and they kept fighting, fighting and fighting and fighting, and there is no pro-Israel monarch or dictator or prime minister in Iraq. Regime failed. Regime change failed in Iraq. Regime change failed in Afghanistan horribly. There was all this rubbish about justifying invasion of Afghanistan because we were going to fight for the Afghan women's rights. Look at the situation. It's worse off now. And so this talk that we will go and get rid of the burqa and the Iranian women can now run around without a burqa, none of that is going to happen. The US incited the Kurds to fight against Saddam Hussein and then abandoned them. And he gassed them, killed thousands of Kurds. And we are doing that again. We are now inciting the Kurds to rise against the IRGC. So this is an important point that I wanted to make, that who are these people who are making this point repeatedly? Most of them are either directly, like on CNN, Tapper brought a woman who's straight out of Israel, an IDF person talking about the Iranian public. So either they are Israelis themselves or Israeli voices, even if they are Iranian Americans like PBD, they are very strong supporters of Israel. Yes, this war is about establishing Israeli hegemony in the Middle East. This is not about democracy in Iran. And this is not about freedom of Iran. And there is that is what Israel gets, that it will have absolutely no resistance to its domination of the Middle East. And I think most of these Middle Easterners deserve that, given the decadence in their societies, the lack of vibrancy. They're all like sissies who need a daddy to support them. You know, like that weakling with good looks who went to prison and is desperate for some protection in the prison. That's how the Arab regimes are behaving. I want a daddy so that I don't have many daddies. That is how the Arab regime have become in the Middle East. So they're going to live under Israeli hegemony for a while or for a long time. But for the United States, there is a dividend. The US is going to make a lot of money out of this because of the rise of oil prices. The US is the least dependent on Middle Eastern oil, less than 10%. And the US is now going to sell gas and oil to Europe and to other places. And so if Iran keeps the Strait of Hormuz shut down, the US will actually increase its market share. Maybe even Canada will benefit. So the US will get a lot of and put pressure on China and reduce. So if the US ultimately does get weakened Iran, Russia and China are weakened in the Middle East. If the US gets a pro-Israel Iran, then that is a complete loss for China and Russia in the Middle East. So for the United States, the only risk is that, God forbid, that many more Americans die in this war. And God forbid that anybody dies in this war. But for the United States, if this war leads to inflation at home, which it already is, you should read my article about affordability in the United States. That's what Americans want Trump to address, the difficulty of having a decent life in America. Most people can't afford it anymore in this country. So instead of spending money to provide healthcare, we are spending money to establish Israeli hegemony in the Middle East. So Israel will definitely gain significantly, and so will the United States to some extent, unless Trump loses out in November big time. But the biggest loser is going to be Iran. It's going to be devastated. It's quite possible its historical heritage could be destroyed, and thousands of them will be killed. Its industrial capacity will be dividend. And in the end, there will be a very weakened and nastier version of this regime that could survive. Either they have a civil war or a regime that is not able to threaten anybody abroad, but have enough power to suppress its people at home. So they're not going to get their democracy or their monarchy, and that's a sad part of it. So, like as I promised, I will play a video by
to protect it. Whereas among the Iranians outside, there is a segment which sees this in very unidimensionally, which is, the regime should be removed at all costs, even at the cost of damage to Iran's historical heritage, even at the cost of civil war, even at all costs, right? But that's not a view that I think is right now on the ascendant. I think this is becoming increasingly a minority view, particularly because this kind of a view is expressed publicly under an Israeli flag, and with chants of "Thank you, Trump," "Thank you, Bibi," which is mind-boggling. In fact, it's mind-boggling to non-Iranians. I see many Turks, Pakistanis, etc., just sort of say, how could the people be cheering for the bombing of the country and thanking the aggressor? And I just don't think that this kind of a view, in a certain fog of January massacre may have held, but that ultimately.
So basically, Wali Nasser is also saying what I'm trying to say, but I just wanted to play this video and to say that, yes, it is quite possible that the massacre in January may have changed public opinion in Iran, even more than what we saw in 2024. So maybe, I don't know, maybe 20%, according to this survey, supported the IRGC in August of 2025. And the survey was actually shared, the report was shared, the survey was done after 2024. So maybe after this massacre, public turned, but this war could also be turning public opinion in Iran against the invaders and against people who are supporting this war, like Raza Pahlavi. Do Iranians really want to live under a clown who serves the interests of Israel? So I'm going to stop with that. Thank you for watching Conversations. If you're not subscribed to the channel already, do subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and share this video with your social political network. And if there are any interesting questions or comments, I will be happy to answer them. I don't see any. Manish Chowdhury, thank you very much. Hello to you too. There is nothing here. People are asking questions about cricket. That's kind of silly. Anyway, so there aren't any interesting questions, but thank you for watching the channel. Please share this video with your socio-political network. I have not seen any analysis of this survey in mainstream media, and I have not. And once again, I want to remind you that I will be sharing a lot of stuff on the posts. I was on Point today. This is a very widely heard NPR show talking about the impact of the war on the global economy, especially India, China, and Asian economies. I have two articles which came out today. One talks about how the American public is more interested in affordability and not in regime change in Iran. Only 1 out of 4 supports this war, and that too if the casualties are low. And then I also have an article with 2 very prominent economists from India, Dr. Santosh Mehrotra and Dr. Amirullah Khan, in which I talk about how the Indian government is now recalculating its GDP. And so India is not the 4th biggest economy anymore. It is the 5th biggest. India actually did not surpass Japan. And India actually did not also cross $4 trillion. Its economy is at $3.9 trillion. But there are other positives, that this is a much more realistic depiction and measurement of the Indian economy than the previous measures, which overstated both growth as well as size of the Indian economy, because they were based on 2012 benchmarks, and this is a more current and therefore more realistic. Anyway, thank you for watching. As I promised, I will continue to upgrade you or sort of update you on the war in Iran. I'm doing at least 1 or 2 shows, one in Hindi, Urdu, and one in English on a daily basis. So please continue to watch Conversations, and thank you very much for your support. And once again, to my friend Dr. Raza Khan from Minnesota, thank you for your support and for being such a great friend. Bye.